I got a message sometime in March.
Kia ora, good evening. The anti-transgender activist known as Posey Parker is due to arrive in New Zealand this evening.
A friend asked me if I could steward for an event in Albert Park. It was a protest. I'm not much of a protester myself, but I wanted to go down and show my support. Most of all though, I just wanted to make sure people were safe.
I never lose.
Prior to a lengthy hiatus due to illness, I had been researching and making content on New Zealand's far right and Christian fundamentalism. Not for any reason really, it just interested me. So I was aware of the type of characters and organisations that would be attending the rally. And in my experience, when these people attend an event, it usually only goes one way. While we were there, my friend Kaka tells me he's going to another protest next week. Aotearoa Liberation League were holding one in Mount Eden. You know, where that weird little boy statue is. They were protesting a countrywide anti-co-governance tour across the road, led by a man called Julian Batchelor.
Show some respect. This is my meeting, not your meeting.
This was the first time I'd heard of him.
It's about.
One man waging war on the indigenous people of Aotearoa.
We can't be just nice little Kiwis anymore. You have to say, I'm on the warpath.
Over the next months, my health deteriorated and I took a break. All the while, Julian is touring, rallying people for his cause and pushing his anti-Māori agenda across the motu. And people are listening. Who is Julian Batchelor? Where did he come from? And most of all, why is he doing this? Last Saturday, I heard there was a Stop Co-Governance protest happening not too far from my house. Knowing this would probably be my last chance to see him in the flesh, I decided to head down to the counter-protest, film some shots and ask a few questions.
Hey, do you know where there'd be a public toilet?
That's a really good question. I should know because I have a high-vis vest on. So I'm going to find out.
Thank you.
And then I'm going to...
Yeah, I'll just be here, thank you.
Yeah.
I feel like the train station would have a toilet.
But you can also get into a train station, I'm pretty sure, through here and you go down. There's actually like, it goes all the way through. Yeah,
to the shock and surprise of absolutely nobody, that toilet was closed. And I ended up having to use the one in Macca's, where I was greeted by the entire cast of Last of the Summer Wine, placards in hand, waiting for Julian to arrive. I gave everyone one of those no-lipped smiles as I left and headed back to the counter-protest. I needed to keep a distance from the counter-protesters when we arrived at the square, so I slipped away and blended in with the other gawkers watching at the side.
At least it's a small crowd. Oh no.
This is where I had my first brush with the long arm of the law.
Would you guys mind just sticking
yeah, sure. Can I sit down?
Yes.
It really wasn't long before the anti-Māori sentiment reared its head from the opposing crowd.
Enough is bloody enough.
I'm here because I'm worried of the future of my country. It's my country, like other 160 nationalities of people here.
Stop the theft of our nation by 10% or 12% of our population. You think that they have the right to control everything, steal everything.
Bring back New Zealand to what it was.
I'm a Kiwi.
I love it, thank you.
Kiwi, not Iwi.
We need to stop the racism in this country and the Maorification.
Maorification of New Zealand.
The Maorification of New Zealand? I really wanted to understand where they were coming from, so in the heat of the moment, the best thing I could think of was just pretend I'm not Maori and see if they'd open up to me.
Do you want a placard? I'm all good, thank you.
Not gonna lie, I did think about taking the placard, but I thought it'd be a bit much.
What's going on? Stop co-governance. So we're anti-co-governance and they're anti-co-governance.
What's co-governance?
The Maori taking over New Zealand.
Oh.
You don't know? Well, this is a big thing.
Oh, yeah?
Serious problems. New Zealand's got serious problems.
Oh, I've been here for a few months. Seems quite nice.
Yes.
Today I was the Lewis that arrived in 2017. A dumb English kid with no real understanding of New Zealand besides Lord of the Rings and Flight of the Conchords. And it worked. I was in.
If you want to, I'll give you a book.
Oh, yeah?
Hello.
Goes to the chance if you want to
Oh.
leave them off, that's helpful, eh? Because she's got a copy as well, so you could... You go for it.
Have you got a booklet?
Oh, horrible weather, eh?
We got an import here anyway. Oh, need to know about it.
Oh, thank you.
If you're not already familiar with this pamphlet, this is Julian's manifesto. 350,000 of them have been distributed across Aotearoa, bothering letterboxes nationwide. There might even be one in your letterbox right now. Stop Co-Governance boldly plastered across its cover, and an image of the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi. A Pākehā sitting on one side, a rangatira in a cloak opposite. Recently, Batchelor and this pamphlet have come under fire for potentially breaching the Electoral Act, as it encourages its readers to vote for parties who are anti-co-governance. If you distribute in any form, in any medium, something that encourages voters to vote or not to vote for a candidate or a party, then that constitutes election advertising.
What's going to get their attention is 100,000 people saying this is wrong. They'll go, oh my goodness, they're serious.
If the Electoral Commission finds the pamphlet is in breach of election advertising rules, Julian Batchelor could face up to $40,000 in fines.
You know, 100,000 people could tip the balance of the whole election. So they're going to run to their policy statements and expunge, is a good word, co-governance.
Multiple complaints have also been laid to the Electoral Commission claiming the document to be divisive, dangerous and factually incorrect. Across its 26 pages, Batchelor discusses his opposition of co-governance and the sovereign radicals and private tribal companies referred to as elite Maori, who he believes are trying to take control of the country in a stealth coup. To find out a bit more about these elite Maori and the ideas shared in the booklet, I got in contact with Joe Trinder, a Maori activist who's been following Julian's co-governance tour around the country.
Kia ora tātou. My name is Joe Trinder. I am an activist and also a videographer. I'm based in the Waikato. I like to investigate and follow anti-Māori hate groups like Holson's Pledge, the White New Zealand League, NZCPR. There's quite a lot of anti-Māori hate groups in Aotearoa.
Super elite Maori at the very top of the tree, ripping this country off for billions.
One of the pieces of propaganda that Julian Batchelor uses, it's a tactic that he got off the Nazis in Germany during World War II. It's from the propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels. What you do is you accuse the other side of that what you are guilty of. So Julian, a lot of his speeches are based on the sinister group called the Māori elite.
It's a war led by tribal representatives, private tribal companies, or elite Māori.
Now, he alleges that they are this nefarious group that are hoarding all the nation's wealth and that they are clandestinely taking over the New Zealand government and they're slowly gaining control and power over British New Zealanders.
And who's going to be in the middle of all this? All the rest of us.
Iwi leaders, none of them have extraordinarily wealth, like nothing compared to the genuine elites in this country, like the NBR rich listers, who have hundreds of millions, 50 million over. and billions. Like, they have genuine wealth that they simply couldn't spend in a lifetime. Māori leaders often tend to just have average wealth. So what Julian's doing is he's accusing the other side of having all this entitlement and wealth when it's not true. It's not true at all. Julian himself is a multi-millionaire. He owns vast amounts of property, and on his anti-co-governance tour he has been funded by multi-millionaires.
Was paid for by the Centre of Political Research.
So this is one of the strategies that he uses, is he accuses Māori leaders of having extraordinary wealth, or that they're hoarding that wealth from the general Māori population. We need to blame our own leaders.
Whereabouts are you from?
Liverpool.
Liverpool.
Yeah, yeah. Yourself?
Yeah. Here in New Zealand.
Oh, yeah. What's going on here? Someone's give me this book.
Maoris are trying to steal this country.
I feel like I'm on the wrong side. Everyone here is white.
Hey?
Everyone here is white and the other side's brown. Should I be over there? Well, am I on the wrong side? I've got Maori friends. They don't seem like they want this.
No.
No? Who is it?
What it is
You're reading it? I read a bit of it, yeah. I don't know what's going on. I've got to research it when I get home.
What's going to tell you?
I don't know much about the history of this country, sorry. I don't know, I just came on holiday.
The Maori signed a treaty.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and they're not honouring it.
With who?
With your lot.
Oh, yeah.
Queen Victoria.
Oh, yeah, the English. Cool, okay.
Did you just get given that book?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not from here, so...
Have you got friends?
Yeah, heaps.
Would you like to take another one to them?
Sure, yeah. Cool, thank you.
Now, I don't know if it's because I'm from the motherland, or maybe they just took a liking to me, but I couldn't fault the hospitality of these people. To me, they didn't seem evil, just scared, brainwashed. And I can imagine, if you're of a certain age and a certain ethnicity, the ideas and imagery shared in this book are quite frightening.
It's 2023 and New Zealand is at war.
Co-governance was the boogeyman to these people, and who can blame them after reading and hearing Julian's thoughts on it? In his book, Julian defines co-governance as code for the takeover of New Zealand by tribal companies and their representatives, the end of democracy, the installation of apartheid and separatism into everyday life, leading eventually to full-blown government by tribal rule. Apartheid.
We don't want apartheid in this country. Stop apartheid. I disagree with separatism and apartheid.
End of democracy.
Support democracy, of course.
To support democracy.
Reinstate democracy.
I believe in democracy.
Maintain democracy. Defend democracy and stick up for democracy.
The takeover of New Zealand.
I'm a Kiwi. Kiwi, not Iwi.
I love my country. Reversion to tribalism is regressive, anti-civilisation.
There's going to be tribal war. There's going to be tribal conflict. And who's going to be in the middle of all this? All the rest of us who are not in that tribe.
All very emotive, catastrophizing language, very carefully selected to instill fear in a group that feel left behind by a progressive and diverse Aotearoa. It wasn't long before I met the man himself, the face of the Stop Co-Governance movement, Mr. Batchelor.
Yeah, thanks, nice to meet you.
Thank you for coming, my friend.
Thanks very much.
Stop co-governance! Stop co-governance! Stop co-governance!
The bus called New Zealand is heading for the cliff, and if we all go over it, it's going to be unsurvivable.
Afterwards, I spoke to my friend Kaka, who was on the other side leading the counter-protest.
The Stop Co-Governance movement, led by Julian Batchelor, faced off against a group opposed to their beliefs. They were successfully separated, though, by multiple rows of police officers.
5 boys right at the front, shouting sort of Nazi slurs and things like that. Go home, savages, go home kind of thing. Not very professional.
Kia ora. My name is Kaka. I'm from the east coast of New Zealand in Te Rāwhiti, Gisborne. and I am Māori. So before I kind of get into the concept of co-governance, probably important to acknowledge that New Zealand is a colonized country. So effectively, in our context, that means that something like 200 years ago, people from Europe crossed over to New Zealand and changed how things run. 170 something years ago, I'd be speaking Māori to the camera right now, but I'm speaking English. That's an effect of colonization, right? There are, you know, some consider things positive and some consider a lot of things, most things, negative with colonization. But in this case, it's how a lot of countries have been built. So the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, a lot of countries in Africa are created out of colonization. So that's where we kind of come to this concept of co-governance. What is co-governance? It's about two groups of people agreeing on the management of resources, natural resources, like how to handle rivers, things like national parks, pretty sure Taranaki, the Ureweras, Waikato River, they're all in co-governance or co-managed natural resources, because Māori, before colonization, had a long history with these places. So we would, in most cases, consider them ancestors, right? And it's not very good when you have cows shitting on your grandma. That's some of the relationships with these places. And so co-governance is essentially about having the Crown or the New Zealand government acknowledge these historical connections and unique connections that us Māori have with places. And it just lets us manage those different views of things in a way that's equal, because it's not always been equal. We do have to remember there's a reason I have to explain this in English. Many people have not learnt Māori. Many of my own people were beaten for speaking Māori. There are some other issues that have come through with the sort of co-living situation that we've developed. But we're kind of trying to work our way around it, and co-governance is one example of us trying to sort that out. Co-governance is something that, like the National Party with their spokesperson, Chris Finlayson, and the Labour Party with, I guess, Rob Campbell, who ran the Māori Health Authority for a bit. They both came to the conclusion that talking to Māori, working with them in terms of how we manage things like our rivers and our mountains that are enjoyed by all New Zealanders, kind of need to be managed a bit better, because Māori haven't had much of a say in how they run. So effectively, it's not giving the keys to the house to the Māori. We don't own our rivers anymore, but we work with local councils and the government to look after them for everyone, because we have our special connections, but everyone enjoys the Waikato, everyone enjoys the Urewera National Park, and so looking after them properly is something that Māori want to do, but also everyone in New Zealand wants to do as well. And that's really what co-governance is about, mutually working together to look after our environment and national resources.
We want good drinking water for people, and with the group that we're involved with, Communities for Local Democracy, we're not just against the reform, we're about better reform. So it's about a bottom-up option, it's about councils working together to deliver better water for you. So we understand that there's a need to change, but it doesn't involve 4 entities needing to take your assets.
The Stop Co-Governance movement has been supported by many far-right organisations and individuals across New Zealand, as well as more mainstream parties such as ACT. Like much policy, there are many differing opinions on both left and right as to what co-governance is, and whether it should be even formally implemented. And this isn't actually the issue. Co-governance and the discussion of it should be able to stand alone without it being weaponised against Māori for political or financial gain. And if it is to be discussed, for and against, it should be done in good faith, supported by evidence and data. This has become increasingly harder due to the rise of disinformation in New Zealand, and Julian Batchelor is a key instigator in this. Conspiracy theorists and the far right continue to spread and rehash the same old racist rhetoric we've heard for years, just to advance their movements. One of these documents is the Littlewood Treaty, which many, Julian included, have misinterpreted to suit their narrative.
So, the Littlewood paper was found in Pukekohe in 1989. Now, Pukekohe has quite a dark and nefarious history. They used to practice apartheid in Pukekohe, where Māori were segregated. Basically, they were second-class citizens. And this happened from the settlement of the area right through to about the 1970s. In 1989, a document was found in a cupboard in Pukekohe by a woman called Beryl Needham. The document is a set of notes on the Treaty of Waitangi. It's not actually a treaty. So what Beryl did is she handed it over to American conspiracy theorist Martin Dutre. Now, Dutre has also come up with other vast conspiracy theories, like the pre-Polynesian conspiracy theory where Patu Paitahi were actually Welshmen that had managed to set up a civilization in Aotearoa before Polynesians. Now, what Dutre's claiming is that Māori are using modern day Māori language to misinterpret Te Tiriti o Waitangi to get certain special treatment from the Crown. Now, we know what the actual translation of the Treaty of Waitangi is already, because one of the 9 documents, the Treaty of Manukau, was actually written in English. So we know exactly what was intended and what the British Colonial Office were actually wanting to cut a deal with the Māori nation. So Dutre has gone and put the Littlewood paper on a pedestal. There's a really good reason why they have put the Littlewood paper on a pedestal. It's like it's written last week, so it offers all New Zealanders the rights and privileges of British subjects. Now, people forget, in the 6th of February 1840, the only people on the planet that could consider themselves a New Zealander were Māori. Conspiracy theorists like Martin Dutre and Julian Batchelor, they try to propose that the Littlewood paper was actually intended for democracy for British New Zealanders in the 21st century, whereas opposed in reality, Te Tiriti o Waitangi was intended to protect Indigenous rights for Māori, and Māori alone, for eternity. So people like Julian Batchelor, they take the Littlewood paper, which is really an imposter document. It's basically a set of notes that were written down by lawyer John Littlewood and were intended for the American consulate. So what Julian Batchelor is proposing with the Littlewood paper is that there is a nefarious group called the Māori elite, and what they've done is this sinister plot where they've taken the original Tiratia Waitangi and they've taken the Te Reo wording within it, and they have adjusted the language in the translation to offer themselves all of these kind of benefits within New Zealand society. And we don't really know what was written in the original Tiratia Waitangi, or that the Littlewood paper secretly exposes what was offered, and that the Littlewood paper, their real original treaty, really offers the same rights and privileges to all New Zealanders of the 21st century. There's multiple reasons why the Littlewood paper is irrelevant to the co-governance debate. First off, a treaty is an agreement that both parties need to have cited. So no one in the Māori nation on the 6th of February 1840 managed to witness the Littlewood paper. No one knew about it. And another reason why it ultimately, overwhelmingly, will never ever be considered one of the founding documents of this nation, it's lacking a critical ingredient to consider itself a treaty, and that it has no signatures. No one signed it.
The protest at Britomart was mild at best. Some Nazis kind of turned up and just stood there, and nobody could really hear each other over the sirens and the screams, so it seemed like it was time to call it a day. That wasn't until the Bishop Brian Tamaki turned up with his Destiny Church group and just decided to join in on some Māori bashing.
So today, I'm down here in the middle of my city, Auckland. This is the anti-co-governance group speaking, and what we have here is some opposition, counter-protesters.
Not gonna lie, things took quite a weird turn. Julian now had a friend. You know, someone who understood him on that evangelical grifter level. Someone he could bounce his wacky ideas off. And he was bloody loving it. Positively giddy with excitement, Julian and the Bishop took their now multicoloured army up Queen Street, turning into a sort of weird comedy duo for the rest of the day.
This guy's Māori and I'm Pākehā. And you know what? We're totally united. And it's not just because of our Christian faith.
Here we are in Auckland. Julian, co-governance, and these minorities that are trying to wag the majority.
This could be the land of milk and honey.
Well, it is.
But at the moment, it's the country of barbed wire and landmines.
Yeah.
And it's a mess.
Concentration camps. You know what? Grounds.
Concentration camp. I've just written a paper on what is the golden key to being a successful family. And actually, this guy models it with his own family. He's got 4 generations going.
6.
He's a good breeder. 6 generations. Yeah. He's a good breeder.
I had nothing better to do with my day, so I joined the march up to Aotea Square, where I was greeted by the national anthem in Te Reo Māori. Julian did a sort of warm-up act for his own march, but it wasn't very funny.
Come out today because you said the issues are bad enough. This issue is so bad, prepared to be intimidated and bullied and harassed. And you said, I don't care.
And you could tell the whole crowd was there for the headliner, Bishop Brian Tamaki.
Our whole country's in crisis. Education system's in crisis. Our health system's in crisis. We've got a crime crisis. Now all those crises that I just talked about, there is even a deadlier crisis. And that's the crisis of the 2 Chris's.
Now, I may disagree with him on many levels, but that was a good joke. I laughed.
I don't think you heard me. The most deadly crisis that's stalking this country now is the crisis of the two Chris's. National and Labour, by happenstance, are led by two Chris's. Meaning, if you vote Labour, you're going to get Chris. If you vote National, you're still going to get a Chris. Whoever you vote, you're still going to end up with a bloody Chris. Sorry, Lord.
After Brian's set, it became apparent that this whole thing was a sort of mutual endorsement of each other, which was quite confusing for the old white anti-Māori crowd, and the Māori crowd who are now against co-governance.
I'm so absolutely proud of you. I'm proud of Brian Tamaki for what he's done in this country. I'm proud of him because he's been one of the few guys over the last 20 years who've actually stood up publicly and said things and gone public. And he's not afraid. And so, credit to you for being a good leader. Hey, thank you for coming, and drive safely when you go home. We need you for the next rally. These are going to be going on for the next 10 years or 20 years or whatever it is, until we get this completely finished and we get this country back to democracy and equality and one law for all.
As the day was coming to a close, I noticed that I'd somehow reached the stage, and I was pretty close to Julian, so I thought to myself, why don't I just try and get a picture with him? I didn't notice, but my GoPro had ran out, so I didn't get a chance to film it. But when I got home, I realised that my sound recording was still on the whole time.
Could I get a picture, please? Sorry? Could I get a picture, please? Do you ready?
Sure.
Thank you.
Let's have a picture.
Thank you. This is so interesting.
Isn't it interesting?
I'm from England, so I'm just on holiday. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. So it's amazing. Thank you for coming up.
Oh, no problem. I was over there. I was going to Rangitoto today, but it's miserable weather. So I just thought I'd come and see what's going on.
Typical woman. My husband.
Oh, it's okay. There we go. Is anyone making a documentary about this stuff?
Are you a filmmaker?
I did film at school, at uni. Yeah.
I'd love you to make a film about all this.
How about a series?